Now that we've covered the 8 cognitive functions, you might have picked up on a pattern. You might have noticed that the traits of some cognitive functions are almost the polar opposite of the traits of other cognitive functions. And you'd be right. Although cognitive functions are often spoken about individually and separately, instead of 8 cognitive functions, it's actually technically more accurate to say that there are instead 4 cognitive polarities. Each cognitive polarity has 2 cognitive functions, one at each end, that are fundamentally at odds with each other. However, they're part of a polarity because they're actually just 2 sides of one overarching process. One side can't really exist without the other. The cognitive polarities exist in 2 pairs, 2 perceiving polarities and 2 judging polarities. Let's look at our first perceiving polarity, between SI and NE. Introverted sensing is all about stability and sameness, structure and order, whereas extroverted intuition is all about exploring new possibilities and breaking rules just to see what happens. However, they're actually just 2 sides of the same process. You experience new things mediated by NE, which then gets stored into your memory. And SI creates personal impressions of those experiences that let you draw the intuitive connections that NE expresses. They're both a necessary component of the overall process of turning personal experiences into intuitive leaps as to how things might play out. They're just on opposite ends of that same process. From an NE-focused view, the more you experience, the more connections you can make, and the more creative and useful you can be. From an SI-focused view, it's safer to double down on what you know works and is reliable to ensure safety and stability so that things don't just evolve into chaos. When you use one as a strength, you're necessarily weaker in the other. The second perceiving polarity is between SE and NI. Again, they need each other because it's all really one overarching process. You experience things in the real objective sensory world via SE, and then NI uses that sensory information as a springboard for extracting deeper conceptual meanings and to derive its connections and perspectives from. If you never experienced anything in the real world, you'd have nothing to use to build out your internal mental model of the world. And likewise, if you only ever experienced things, but never categorize those experiences into an intuitive understanding of the world, you'd never be able to make predictions about anything, and you just experience the world only as it is right at a single moment in time. It's kind of like my dog. A similar relationship exists between judging functions, creating 2 judging polarities. With judging polarities, it's almost like the polarity of an overarching question, with the ends having cognitive functions that give opposing answers to that question. Our first judging polarity is between FE and TI. These 2 functions really define 2 separate positions on the question, what should we think? On the TI side, the answer is pretty simple. I think what I think, and I determine what makes sense to me alone. I don't care what anybody else feels about what I think makes sense, including my own feelings. If something is the truth as far as I can tell, then it's the truth. On the other hand, FE is more concerned with what thought can be shared such that we can all coexist in harmony together. What they subjectively think makes sense isn't as important as making sure that people feel connected with each other. Let's imagine a simple example to illustrate these opposing sides. Picture hanging out with a group of friends, and one of them asks, "Does this dress make me look fat?" From an FE perspective, there's only one right answer. "Of course not, you look amazing!" Which then serves to bond you together, makes them feel good and confident, and from an FE view, leads only to good outcomes. From a TI perspective, the answer might be very different. It's actually, I do think that dress makes you look a little bit fatter than other dresses that I've seen you wear. This might not make them feel very good to hear, but that's not the point. You're trying to give them accurate information so they can make informed decisions. Lying to them would just make them walk around looking fat, which evidently they care about. In reality, most people are not so polarized that they slot neatly into a fully TI or fully FE viewpoint, and they instead season each other. For example, a TI user might wrap their blunt impression with niceties, like, you always look good, so a dress isn't really going to affect that. Although, I guess if I'm being honest, I think I liked that style of dress that you wore yesterday more than this one. And an FE user might add a bit at the end of their feel-good answer with something like, "Oh, and my favorite dress of yours was the one that you wore yesterday. I'm so envious how you can look so amazing like every dress that you wear." All right, now let's cover our other judging polarity between TE and FI. This time, the question dividing them is, what should we do? From a TE perspective, the answer is, we do whatever gets the job done. From an FI perspective, doing anything at all isn't actually even strictly necessary, because how you subjectively feel about something is the most important consideration. It's easy to see that leaning too heavily to either side of this polarity can lead to bad outcomes. A TE user might resort to horrific actions that have no grounding in morality, as long as it gets the job done, or makes the shareholders money, or wins the war. Basically, the ends justify the means. An FI user, on the other hand, could live a life entirely wrapped up in self-righteous indignation, condemning anything they disagree with but taking no action to change anything themselves because they already know what's right and good, and it's all contained within themselves. Obviously, a seasoning of the other end of the polarity is necessary in either case. For a TE user, checking in with how they feel about what it is that they're doing is an important ballast that ensures that they're operating within a moral code that allows them to feel positively about themselves and for others to feel positively about them as well. Perhaps lowering the importance of maximizing profits so that you don't pollute a national park, or realizing that winning at all costs doesn't matter if it hurts the people that you care about. On the FI side of things, realizing that how you feel about things will never have an impact on anyone else other than yourself unless you get into action to express those feelings. That could be expressing them through art, or through the creation of a company or organization that is driven for a moral cause that you find important. That is, taking concrete action to change the world into a better place, or to spread love and empathy, or whatever it is that you feel that the world needs more of. All right, that about wraps it up for now. I know that's a lot of information to take in, and we've only spoken about cognitive functions and polarities at a very high level. Next, we're going to show how these cognitive functions are abstractly arranged in our minds, and how the specific arrangement of each function creates a distinct change in how that function manifests. By the way, don't worry if you don't remember every little detail of all of the cognitive functions that we've gone through. I'll be making sure to repeat what each cognitive function does at a high level quite a few times throughout the course, just so that it'll start to sink in over time. At this point, just aim to have a decent understanding of what each of those 8 cognitive functions can do.